My husband's younger cousin is currently residing in our vicinity. As his previous flat lease was of a temporary nature, he's staying with us temporarily while he searches for a new place. I must admit, I'm not particularly fond of his demeanor. He displays a somewhat bratty attitude, but what truly irks me is his behavior towards our 8-month-old daughter. Whenever the topic of my daughter or children arises, he manages to redirect the conversation to his own childless status. When we shared the news of our pregnancy with his family, everyone responded with joy. However, his reaction was quite different, exclaiming, "Oh, that's quite repulsive." He followed this up by explaining that the concept of pregnancy is odd to him, especially from the perspective of a woman, and that he's relieved to never experience it. These instances have left us deeply upset and irritated. He didn't alter his approach during my pregnancy, prompting us to simply ignore his behavior. After our daughter was born, he even expressed frustration when my in-laws sent him some baby pictures. He called my husband, asking him to convey to his parents that he prefer not to receive such images, as not everyone is interested in infants. Although we weren't the ones who sent the pictures, he was still confronted by my father, who urged him to be more open to our child. Naturally, my husband was quite angered by his behavior. Despite this, his parents defended him, suggesting that he's merely expressing his feelings and that we shouldn't take it personally. The situation escalated when we offered him a place to stay. Now when my daughter cries, he audibly remarks, "Goodness, make her stop." He uses her behavior as an opportunity to make unrelated comparisons, like not wanting cats due to their perceived annoyance and neediness. He even exaggerates reactions when she eats vegetables and insists that we relocate her, which we choose not to do. In response, my husband advises him to cope with it and adapt. I can certainly appreciate someone having personal preferences regarding cats and not desiring them as pets. However, what perplexes me is his continual emphasis on how much he despises them. Regardless of what my daughter does, he consistently finds fault and voices his opinions. I find his negative attitude towards my child deeply unsettling. On one occasion, when my daughter hurt her arms and began crying, I managed to comfort her. After a brief moment, he interjected without solicitation, saying, "Well, you had it coming for a month." Frustrated, I lashed out at him, stating that if he truly detests the baby to such a degree, he should leave my home. I'm struggling to comprehend the intensity of his aversion towards children. Perhaps he would benefit from seeking therapy to address these feelings. It's one thing to have reservations about children, but it's an entirely different matter to consistently express and emphasize one's disdain for them. I expressed my frustration with him constantly bothering rants while enjoying our free food and griping about a baby despite his own childish behavior. So I certainly didn't hold back in my words. Following my outburst, he remained silent but proceeded to share the incident with my spouse and then relate it to his parents. The reason behind their perception of me as a jerk stemmed from the fact that I implied a threat to his living situation, even though he had limited alternatives. My husband is in agreement with me, which has led to a disagreement with his parents. I recognize that he is still young and prone to foolishness, hence why I'm contemplating joining the conversation. As a 42-year-old woman and the second youngest among 8 siblings, my background is quite unique. I was an unexpected addition to my parents' lives later in their years, and during my early teenage years, my father became restless and sought more outside activities. These pursuits often involved hobby classes that I was reluctantly dragged into. Consequently, I developed a diverse set of unconventional crafting skills, encompassing brushwork, knitting, basket weaving, cake quilting, decorating, and various forms of painting. While I may not be a master in any of these areas, I became fairly proficient after my father's passing. I repurposed his old crafting materials to create heartfelt gifts for my siblings. Each of them received items such as an Afghan blanket, a scarf, an egg basket, and more. This tradition allowed me to maintain a connection with my late father throughout the years. However, it was the knitted sweaters that raised some suspicion. I managed to complete 3 before realizing I had run out of yarn, and it was too late to backtrack. In response, I acquired additional wool, making an effort to select a wide array to avoid detection. I then made modifications, incorporating sections from 2 of the existing sweaters and supplementing them with the new ones. My intention was for each sibling to have a piece of our father's wool in their sweater. Regrettably, I overlooked labeling them with names when packing. Everyone eagerly seized the package, brimming with joy upon discovering the cozy jumper inside. This marked the culmination of the father-daughter craft projects, a task I was relieved to see completed. Just recently, during a lunch gathering with my brother, I casually mentioned that only one sweater had been crafted entirely from our father's wool, as the supply had run out. Inquisitively, he pressed me to reveal which sweater it was. At that time, I couldn't definitively identify the recipient, leading to an explanation that there simply hadn't been enough wool to go around. His irritation began to surface as he questioned why I hadn't ensured that he received the sweater made solely from Dad's wool, given that he was the eldest among us. Predictably, the situation spiraled from there. My brother initiated a group conversation involving our other siblings to unravel the mystery. This sparked a flurry of messages and images as they collectively worked to ascertain who possessed the authentic garment and who ended up with a substitute. The influx of pictures has now left me uncertain about which jumper actually consists entirely of our father's wool. Despite this, I'm feigning ignorance. Carrying around a substantial amount of wool for a month inevitably makes recognition a given. Consequently, I've received a barrage of less-than-kind messages from various sources. Even my siblings' friends seem to unanimously view my actions as impolite and attention-seeking. Hindsight has made me realize that it might have been wiser to dismantle all 3 jumpers and distribute the wool evenly. Nonetheless, after dedicating an entire month to hurriedly complete these projects, the prospect of undoing and redoing the work on 2 of them felt disheartening. So am I in the wrong for not ensuring equal distribution of our father's fabric among my siblings for their Christmas jumpers? At this juncture, I'm beginning to think I should have just crafted 3 separate sweaters and openly presented the challenge to them. Shifting gears, a few months back, my daughter Lee openly shared her bisexuality with the family. While most of us embraced her truth, I acknowledge that certain actions we took during that time didn't sit well with her. We maintained connections with individuals who didn't fully embrace her identity. We made an effort to be as supportive as possible, and shortly after her disclosure, she introduced us to her friend, an absolutely delightful woman who clearly adored our daughter. However, approximately a year ago, rumors surfaced reportedly propagated by my other daughter Grace, claiming that Lee's friend was originally male. Initially skeptical, we eventually received confirmation from Lee herself that her friend is transgender. Adapting to this revelation proved challenging and surprising. It also somewhat damaged the relationship between our daughters, altering their dynamic. Now, turning to the main issue at hand. Yesterday, we arranged a small gathering involving the 4 of us, myself, my wife, and our 3 daughters. The occasion was accompanied by a delightful meal and extensive conversations, resulting in a generally enjoyable time. Despite sensing a certain tension between our daughters, I managed to navigate the situation. Subsequently, I posed a question to Leah, inquiring about the activities of her friend. Grace promptly joined in, asking, "Yes, what is he up to?" This seemingly innocent inquiry irritated Leah, leading to a heated exchange of insults between them. Fortunately, I intervened swiftly, redirecting the conversation and urging them to quell their escalating disagreement before it escalated into a genuine conflict. After Grace departed, Lee confronted me regarding the incident. She expressed frustration at my failure to defend her or at least address Grace's remarks. While I acknowledge the rudeness of Grace's comment, it's worth noting that Leah initiated the quarrel and exacerbated the situation. Therefore, I believed it was inappropriate for me to take sides or come to her defense. Regrettably, Lee perceived the situation differently. She issued an ultimatum demanding my intervention or else she would refrain from future interactions. This ultimatum deeply affected me. Since that incident, I haven't directly communicated with either of them. However, the broader family seems to be aligning with different perspectives. Lee remains resentful towards me. Although I empathize with her resentment towards her sister, I find her animosity towards me to be unjustified. While this incident unfolded in August, its consequences linger on, subjecting me to ongoing criticism. Switching gears, I'm a 26-year-old woman and my brother, aged 24, has been involved with a woman for around a year, a relationship that I believe he shouldn't be in. He continually subjects her to tests designed to assess her loyalty and honesty, even though she consistently passes these tests and voices her objection to being tested. Despite her compliance, my brother contends that he cannot trust her. Curiously, he refuses to end the relationship. Our family and some of his friends have implored him to cease these tests, yet he persists in his logic that if she truly loves him, she should understand his need for trust. She once went out with friends and informed my brother, allowing him to anticipate her delayed responses. My brother, aware of individuals planning to attend the same club that evening, disclosed to a male acquaintance that he shared with her that she was single and interested, effectively setting up a test scenario. Once more, his girlfriend seemingly involves his son in the situation. She recognizes the familiar pattern of a test, prompting her to exit the club. Subsequently, she calls him, seeking clarification if this is indeed another test. Upon his confirmation, she decides to end the relationship, expressing her intention to explore a connection with a man she interacted with during a swim if he's still interested, or pursue someone else altogether. Her tolerance for his erratic behavior has reached its limit. Overwhelmed, my brother experiences deep distress, and she abruptly terminates the call. Seeking solace, he turns to our family in the kitchen. He recounts the events to our mother, father, my sister, and me, detailing how she betrayed him and terminated their relationship. Naturally, we all empathize with his emotional turmoil. However, when he later confides in me, unveiling the genuine sequence of events, I couldn't help but burst into laughter due to his deceptive actions. It becomes evident that his own behavior had contributed to the breakup, a scenario that had been cautioned against by those around him. What were the consequences of his ongoing testing of her? In response to my reaction, my brother directs a barrage of insults my way, while our parents acknowledge his wrongdoing but suggest I should have exercised greater sensitivity to his feelings and refrain from voicing my perspective.